So, today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be grading every single player on the Indiana Fever this season. Obviously, we're not going to be grading Celeste Taylor. She wasn't there long enough. But we're going to be giving letter grades. I'm not going to spend too long in the intro. Let's take a look right here. So, obviously, this is the Fever team. And we are going to be grading them. So, first off, we're going to talk about Chrissy Sides. When it comes to Chrissy Sides, I thought X's and O's, she was very poor. I thought in-game rotation, she was incredibly poor. I thought late game down the stretch, anytime she had to make a coaching decision, other than a couple of sideline plays, she was quite poor. I do feel like she did put in quite a few good quick hitters at times. She just kind of ran them into the ground. I think her main thing was making sure the culture of this team was good. And I think she did a really good job at that. So I'll go, considering like the level of coaches around the league, some of them have just let it become just a shit show. I'll give Christy Sides a C+ for the year. I'll give her a C+. She won a coach of the month, so I'm not going to go lower than C+. Do I think she's the right coach of this team? No, but I'll give her a C+. So first up, we have got Nelissa Smith, number 1. Drafted number 2, she went down from, I think, 15-9 to 10-7, but I thought it was a lot of empty stats. I felt like a lot of the time when it came to Nelissa Smith that she was not she wasn't as good as the stats would suggest. But yeah, she wasn't as good as the stats would suggest. She was the worst on the team of plus minus by a mile. Caitlyn Clark, obviously, I think her net rating was the highest on the team, but there was a huge flip. Like when Caitlyn Clark wasn't playing with Nelissa Smith, she had one of the highest net ratings in the league. Like the best lineup was their starting 5 with Nelissa Smith swapped for Temi. The starting 5 they ran with against Connecticut. But I will say, there were a few games she was good, but I'm gonna give Nelissa Smith I'll give her a C. I think she did enough to warrant a starting spot for chunks of the season. I think a lot of people forget post-Olympic, or pre-Olympic basketball. I would probably gone B- pre-Olympics, D+ post-Olympics. So I'll give her a C for the year. Then we got Christy Wallace, someone who was just thrown in the deep end. It's not her fault. She's not very good at basketball. Chrissy Sides starting her was a crazy thing. You can't give Christy Wallace higher. She had a few all right games. I think she was better than Katie Lou. She had 17 against Washington. But I don't think you can give Christy Wallace higher than a D. I'll give her a D+. You know what? D+ because she had 17 in the last game. I think she had a couple of okay games to start her, but I'll go D+. Victoria Saxton, not applicable. She was actually really, really good at the end of that Mystics game. I would have thought that maybe she played 2 minutes against Connecticut. She played 2 minutes in the playoff game? Really? I did not know that. Why did I not know that? She played 2 minutes in that game. I had forgot about that. Obviously, she's a point average of 1 per 40, numbers of 40 points a game in the playoffs. But no, I'll give her a not applicable. Then we've got Aaliyah Boston. So Aaliyah Boston started off the season badly. She showed up. She didn't. I'm not going to say showed up out of shape because I don't know what shape she was in, but she showed up out of game sharpness. She was really struggling to deal with Caitlyn Clark. She was struggling to catch the ball. She was struggling to play defense. She was struggling to run up and down the floor at times. The game was just passing her by. And then there were spells in the season where she was the best center in the league. I think that she didn't take the leap that people were expecting, but I also think that she was the one who adapted her game more to work with Caitlyn Clark than vice versa. I think she is, like, as far as she's 22 years old. She's like, 3 weeks older than Caitlyn Clark or something, or 5 weeks older, sorry. I think that as far as potential is concerned, she still is the highest potential center in the league, in my opinion, other than maybe Ezzy Magbagor. But I'll go A- for Aaliyah Boston. I think she started off the season too poorly and had a very iffy stretch at one stage post-Olympic break. So, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I will say that she is a... I'll go with A-. A-. Lexi Hull. Again, Lexi Hull, pre-Olympic break, I'll go, she was a defensive player that couldn't score at all. So I'll go, pre-Olympic break, I would say C+. Post-Olympic break, playoffs, I'd say B. But like, I would go A+ post-Olympic break because this team did not function when Lexi Hull was not in the lineup. And I mean that. Like, like, the team looked worse. As crazy as to say, the team looked worse when Lexi Hull was off the floor than when Caitlyn Clark was off the floor late in that. You go C+ for part of the season. You go A+ for another part of the season. But I'll go A- for Lexi Hull. But I do think she was an A+ for a decent chunk of the season. But she was very, very solid. Then we got Damiris Dantas. And when it comes to Dantas, this is a player that's very clearly a good player. But for me, it's like she's a good player, but you lose a lot. Like, if she's not giving you 12 points a game on good shooting, you lose so much because she doesn't really rebound. She doesn't play defense. She can't move. She's not the greatest passer in the world. But there were a lot of games where she did step up. Like, she really stepped up in the last Connecticut. There was one of the games she really stepped up in the playoffs. I thought it was this one more that she was better. I know she shot the ball well in this one, but I didn't think I thought she was a net negative as much as anything. But like, there was a game where she was great against the Liberty. I'm trying to think what game was it that she carried them down the stretch. Was it the Sparks where no. There was a game where she hit a bunch of threes. Maybe it was the Aces game. But there was one where she just hit 2 huge threes in a row in the corner. Was it the Dream game? No. Maybe it was the Aces game to bring them back when they lost in the end. But there was a game where she had 2 huge threes. She was obviously injured for a bit of the year, not in the greatest shape. I think she was a net negative more than positive for the team. I'm going to go C+ for Damiris Dantas. If you just purely looked at her offense, you would probably say A- for a bench player. I think she just meant, like, when she was on the floor, the team couldn't run. When she was on the floor, the team couldn't really play defense. So I'll go C+. And then you've got the opposite. You've got Temi Fagbenle, who was a defensive specialist who didn't really play much offense. Although there were some games, she had a freaking massive 3 against Connecticut. She had 9 points in that game. She struggled at times with layups, but like, the way she started the season at like an A- rate, and then just so many injuries, like, that keeps her out of the A category. But she's more of a center than she's a power forward. But the problem is she was the only person that could play power forward that could, like, kind of play defense. So I'll say that she is I'll give her B+. I'll give her B+, just because of the impact in the team. I don't think she had quite as big of an impact as Lexi Hull, and the injuries mean that I can't keep her in A category. I'll go B+. Erica Wheeler. On the court, like, C-. Off the court, A+. But a lot of times people's impact on the team is not just what we see on the floor. So with a lot of the off-floor stuff, her mentorship for Caitlyn Clark, I don't think she was good on the floor. She was a terrible contract. I think at times she'd do whatever. Like, if she was the type of player that if she played 30 minutes or played 30 seconds, she'd give the same effort. For that, I'll put her in B- category. I'd probably go C- for her playing, but I'll put her in B- category for impact on the team. Because while she was a great impact off the floor, she might at times have been a detriment on the floor. So I'll go B-. Then we got Caitlyn Clark, and people are gonna kill me for this. You know what? Like, A+. I was gonna go A, because I'm like, well, teams were able to target her in off-ball defense. We saw it in the Connecticut Sun series, but I'm like, it wasn't even just her. Like, Lexi Hull was getting caught on that. Every single time a team ran flex action, they got a wide open mid-range shot or a wide open layup off that flex cut. It was nothing to do with Caitlyn Clark. It was just they put her in that action a lot. I think that offensively, she was the reason this team was the best offense in the W. At any time Christy Sides decided we're not running through Caitlyn, they went from a team that could drop 100 in any given game to a team that would struggle to drop 60. So I'll go, or a team that would struggle to drop 70. I will go A+ for Caitlyn Clark. Katie Lou Samuelson. Like, she had a spell. She was bad at the start of the year. She had a spell coming off the bench where she was actually pretty good when she shot 41% from three. But as soon as she got made a starter again, she was awful. And she was so bad post-Olympic break. She was so bad. Like, Katie Lou Samuelson, and considering her contract, D-. D-. No question about that, D-. Grace Berger, not applicable. She didn't play enough minutes. I thought she was decent at the start of the season. I kind of liked her at the start of the year. I thought she was doing a better job than Wheeler when she was in the rotation. So you know what? She played enough. I'll just go C. I really don't know. And then we got Kelsey Mitchell. So there were two different versions of Kelsey Mitchell. There was Monte Ellis Kelsey Mitchell, or there was Klay Thompson Kelsey Mitchell. Klay Thompson Kelsey Mitchell was an A+. Monte Ellis Kelsey Mitchell was a C+. An inefficient, like, she could either be the most deadly off the ball scorer in the WNBA or an inefficient over dribbling shot chucker. And the problem is that throughout the season, we actually got more of the inefficient over dribbling shot chucker than we got of the devastating off the ball cutter, off the ball spot up shooter, fast break runner. And that is where my issue is with Kelsey Mitchell. So people are going to kill me for this. I'm going to go A- for Kelsey Mitchell. Because at her best, she was an A+. But Kelsey Mitchell played like Klay Thompson for about 10 games. She played about 30 games like Monte Ellis. With Kelsey Mitchell, it is all how she chooses to play. She can either be an all-W player or she can be a worse Arike. She makes that choice. And I feel like in the playoffs, she chose to be worse Arike. And I feel like toward the end of the regular season and the start of the regular season, she went back to what she naturally knew, which is be a worse Arike. But I do think next season we're going to see her play more of the off-the-ball role. And I think we're going to see her do more of that. So I'll go A- for that. So anyway, yeah, that is the team. That is all of the team. So obviously the big three all got in the A's. And I also gave Lexi Hull an A- because she was actually the most important player by the end of the season on this team. Like, the team could survive when Aaliyah Boston was off the floor. The team could survive when Kelsey Mitchell was off the floor. The team would struggle but could survive with Caitlyn Clark off the floor. Ironically, the team could not survive when she was off the floor, which was mental. But anyway, that is the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.